just trying to make it.
I think she's ready. Good evening. Welcome to the Lompoc City Council meeting. This is Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. It is 6:30 p.m. If you have not already done so, I'd like to remind you to silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices. And if you'll please rise, remove your hats, and join us in Pastor Kathleen Puntar in an invocation.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for this opportunity tonight. Let us settle our hearts for just a moment in prayer. Gracious God, there is a sense of fall in the air, with clouds moving in and the possibility of rain tonight. There is a sense of change, with the coming of autumn, with some trees changing colors to red and gold, with upcoming elections, and with anticipation of upcoming holidays and celebrations. May we marvel at the changing seasons and the gift of life and creation. Let fall colors remind us of the way you have made the world more magnificent than any artist could have imagined. As temperatures cool, may we know a quiet peace of mind as you envelop us in your warmth. Help us draw in others who might not feel this warmth, so that we become a people who care and share with others, especially those in need. Almighty God, we thank you that your love and grace, your justice and mercy is always present and always unchanging. We bring before you our community of Lompoc and the City Council and other leaders. Help them to act with courage and conviction. Help them to listen with understanding and open minds. Help them to speak with honesty and respect. Guide them to be the leaders that the people of Lompoc need. Help them to see the humanity of those who disagree with them and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, how strong or rich, with dignity. And finally, help each of us to build up our community. We ask all this confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And if you please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. That's why we have a city clerk. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Vega.
Here.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Mosby.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Janelle Osborne. Here. Mayor Bob Lingle.
Here. Okay. This is really exciting. For those of you here that don't know why we've got all these young children, wonderful children in our community, and those in TV land if you don't know, these are some pretty remarkable kids. They're going to be receiving certificates for a gold card, which how many hours did you have to, or how many meetings did you have to attend? How many times at Boys and Girls Club? 105 over the period of time. Is that without missing any? Or just, yeah, 105 meetings, okay. Now, if you're not familiar with the Boys and Girls Club, we've got, I'm going to say, the best Boys and Girls Club in Santa Barbara County for sure. But these kids have a safe place to go every single day, I believe including Saturdays, is that correct? Including Saturdays. After school, weekends, and they learn a lot, they have a lot of fun, you meet a lot of friends. So that's why it's very important that we recognize you for attending these meetings. Want to come up? So, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Michael Baker, CEO for United Boys and Girls Clubs, and I'm going to agree with you that this is what is the best Boys and Girls Club in Santa Barbara County, our Lompoc unit. And Lompoc once again leads the way. This is the first city council this year that's recognizing our kids for their gold cards. And really what makes the biggest difference between the kids coming and why they come so often, there's two individuals that are in the crowd right now, and they're going to be very embarrassed for me doing this, but I don't care because I have the microphone. And that's Ms. Davika Stalling, who's the club director, and Ms. Myra Soto, who's the assistant director. I'd love to give them a round of applause for all their hard work. You guys are awesome. Totally awesome. So, as you said, these children have attended the Boys and Girls Club 105 days, and why that number is so significant is we know from studies across Boys and Girls Clubs all over the country that that's a magical number. If a child comes to a Boys and Girls Club 105 times in the same calendar year, they're twice as likely to graduate high school on time and twice as likely to lead a healthy lifestyle. So we encourage children to come and reward them. And Lompoc was the first city of all the cities that we have clubs in, that includes Carpinteria, Goleta, Santa Barbara, and Buellton, to acknowledge the children. The very first time that we did a gold card ceremony at a city council meeting was right here in Lompoc. So I want to thank Mayor Lingle for that support. And I'm going to call Davika Stalling to read off the names of the kids.
Sure, okay.
And then I also want, if I could, I'd like to call up our board member, who happens to be the police chief for the city of Lompoc, Mr. Pat Walsh, if he'd join us as well up here and congratulate the kids. And can we give him a round of applause? Because he's awesome for us. A good man.
Okay, so when I call your guys' name, you guys are just going to come up here and Miss Myra's going to line you guys up, okay? All right. So we have Daryl J. Camila Hernandez. Shariq Lorenzo. Ava Breaker. Andrew Rivera. Madison Burrow Lothry. Julian Mora. Ryan Ponce. Jayana Branham. Haley Bansma. Janice McLean. Malia Coward. Rhea Wilson. Asher Wilson. Jalen McLean. Hunter Holmes. Alina Rodriguez. Alan Fleshman Jr. Ayla Ronholm. Eric Prendez. Alrighty, that's it.
Stand up behind them. They come in towards the center.
eyes will be closed or red.
Okay, guys, ready? 1, 2, 3. Don't hold the secrets over your faces. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wait a few minutes as they file out. Yeah. Okay. Wasn't that great? Really good. Okay, now we're going to have a brief presentation on the status update on the campaign for Lompoc Community Track and Field Project. Former Councilwoman Ashley Costa. Welcome back.
I thought the crowd was here for me, but I was wrong. Good evening, honorable council members, city staff, and community members. My name is Ashley Costa, and I'm the executive director for the Lompoc Valley Community Health Care Organization. And we're a small nonprofit here in town that's been working for about 20 years at making the community healthier and a more vibrant place to live, work, and recreate. So to start my presentation, I'm going to show you a quick video that was produced by the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians, who's been a really key partner in this project.
When the Lompoc Valley Community Healthcare Organization and the Lompoc Unified School District announced a capital campaign of $2.4 million to repair the track and field at Houck Stadium, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation was quick to commit the lead gift of $450,000.
The stadium is the heart of the community. It's used for all of our physical education needs. Both high schools, Cabrillo High School and Lompoc High School, use it for football games. The community uses it for Relay for Life functions, AYSO openings, youth football openings, you name it. This is the place.
Approximately 130,000 people use the stadium each year. The stadium is named after Lawrence Houck, who played various sports for Lompoc High and supported athletics for years after he graduated.
Lawrence Houck's great-grandfather, Andrew Lewis Houck, was one of the original stockholders for the Lompoc Land Company that established the community of Lompoc in 1874. And just as the Houck family was foundational to our community, this track and field inside this stadium has been foundational to community life for the last 55 years.
Once the Tribes Foundation committed its donation, other organizations joined the cause.
We've had an outpouring of support from organizations and individuals since we announced our first gift from the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation. People have stepped up to make commitments because they understand and believe in the importance of this project.
In addition to the Tribes gift, the Lompoc Unified School District has made a commitment of $1.2 million toward the renovation, which gets the project to more than 70% of its funding goal.
This is going to be a comprehensive campaign with opportunities at all levels to support the project. We're also going to have various naming opportunities for the different amenities in Houck Stadium, for the track and field amenities, as well as for pillars that will line the entryway and even bricks in the walkway to Houck Stadium.
Over the years, Houck Stadium has become a deteriorated facility, hindering its ability to serve the schools and the community.
Unfortunately, because our other fields were pretty much overrun with gophers, the fields became unusable, unsafe, so we had to practice in the stadium this year, which really tore it up. The facility used to be pretty much pristine, and because we had to practice on it this year, it really took a beating, and it showed when both Cabrillo and Lompoc High School played football games here. We are a very traditionally strong football program here, and to have your games played on a field that's going to be consistent without any holes or dirt is going to add to our ability to continue dominance in the area, we hope.
Plans are to use synthetic surfaces on both the track and field, matching the modern standard of stadium facilities.
We're getting the latest, greatest. Depending on our ability to raise the amount of funds, we'll be able to get the top level track and field, which will allow us to open it up to the community for many, many purposes.
The project will break ground later this year, with the goal of being completed by August of 2019.
This project is so important to me because I was born and raised in Lompoc, a fact of which I'm fiercely proud. I'm a product of Lompoc Unified School District. I walked across my graduation stage here in this stadium. So me, like many others, have a special place in our hearts for this track and field.
We're proud to partner and very excited for them to hit their goals so we can get this stadium built. The Chumash Foundation prides itself in partnering with youth recreational programming. We understand that programming for youth and rec goes hand in hand with academic success.
Over the years, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians has donated more than $20 million through its foundation to hundreds of groups, organizations, and schools in the community and across the nation as part of the tribe's long-standing tradition of giving.
So I'm sure you all have a lot of experience in Houck Stadium over the years, as do I. And about 2 to 3 years ago, I was approached by athletic trainer and PE teacher Tom Blanco. He invited me into the stadium, which I hadn't been in since 2005. And I was surprised at the poor disrepair of the facility. It's interesting to think that the crushed red brick is still the same material that was used when the stadium was first built 55 years ago. The natural turf field is the same field that was laid down 55 years ago. The crown of the sports field has been worn away by continual use. So if you ever check out the stadium when it's raining, you'll notice that there's tremendous amount of flooding, causing the facility to be unusable for weeks at a time. Not only the disrepair, but we had a conversation about health in the community, and that was really our buy-in as a nonprofit organization. I think something that many council members and community members may not know is that the city of Lompoc has the highest rate of childhood obesity in the county. We also have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the county. So not only are these children challenged with obesity, but where would you go to recreate and to exercise in the evening for free, that's safe and well lit? There's not a single place in our community at this time to do that. So this project was born. It was born out of a partnership between my organization and the school district that realized it was going to take a community effort to make this a true community facility and to raise the needed money. So as the video stated, our project is to install a 9-lane CIF-sanctioned track that will be made of rubberized material instead of that crushed red brick, and a synthetic turf field that will replace the natural turf field that is there currently. There will be upgraded drainage, ADA accessibility, a more efficient layout of facilities, and of course replacement of those track and field facilities such as the long jump, high jump, shot put, etc. So the video, the reason I'm coming tonight is to update you. The video did have some information that's now dated. That video is from February of this year, which is really when our campaign kicked off. And as you saw, the Chumash were wonderful in the lead gift of $450,000. With large construction projects, there's always delays, and so we have had 2 additional studies that need to be done, pushing back our timeline slightly. But what's really exciting is we're so close to being done with our fundraising efforts. We only have about $250,000 remaining of the $2.4 million goal. So very exciting. I want to give a quick shout out to the Lompoc Rotary Club, which is donating $25,000. Coastal's Credit Union has a matching challenge. They're hoping to give us $50,000. We received a gift from Imerus, which was wonderful, of $20,000. There's an anonymous organization, or excuse me, foundation in Santa Barbara that's recently given us $275,000, and again, it's a matching grant. So our challenge is we've got to continue to raise locally to match those South County dollars. So we've connected with banks, we've connected with service organizations and community members, because we knew that it was going to take all of those fundraising efforts to get us to the finish line. So I was here today just to give you an update to say that we were very lucky that the City of Lompoc Economic Development Committee did provide a letter of support, because we believe that with an improved facility, especially one that is CIF sanctioned, we'll be able to bring in events such as track and field, CIF sanctioned track and field events, band competitions, cheer competitions. Think about it, it's the only facility in town that can house 7,000 people at once. And so we're really excited about those potential opportunities. And probably most importantly is that there is a relationship with the City of Lompoc in this project. So back with previous city manager Patrick Weimiller, when we first approached, we said, hey, do you have any money? Which of course the answer was no. And so we try to figure out what are other ways we can partner. And so right now, your Recreation Division Manager, Mario Guerrero, is in the audience. He's one of our community committee members. And so we've been working really hard on the relationship between the school district and the city. The vision is that this facility will be open when not in use by the school district, and it will be open for community use. So if you've ever been to Santa Barbara City College, it gives you a really great example of what this facility could look like. So you have parents with their strollers walking the track, you have people running the stairs. We plan to install a community exercise equipment, so there'll be a community exercise zone for people to use for free. And then the hope is that the City Recreation Division will actually program and manage the use of the field. So there'll be a nominal fee associated per hour, just like there is for the rental of any other field in town. And that income generated will offset the cost of the staff person who will oversee the facility. So I knew coming into deficit and the budget times that it needed to be fiscally sustainable, and we believe that we have that in place as well. So what I'm asking you today is just please to continue to support this important project, not only for our students and our athletes, but for the citizens of the community as well. And I'm available if you have questions. I don't know if that's appropriate at this time, since it's not.
Sure, it's appropriate. And Ms. Costa, you may want to just mention to the public, there are still bricks available, very reasonable to get you or a loved one memorialized, yes. Thank you. For the next 55 years of the stadium or more. So,
yes, thank you. We have a great website, lompoctrackandfield.com. We are selling laser engraved bricks in the walkway, starting at $150. So, like you said, very reasonable. You can add a logo or clip art for $10 extra. A lot of folks are using their high school emblems in their bricks. Businesses in memorandum, we've had some folks who have passed away and they've been memorialized for graduates, for Christmas gifts, for a lot of different things. We have brick sales, $150 to $1,000. And then as you mentioned, you can see here, this is actually what we're calling the foundation of the community walkway and pillars of the community here as well. And those 4 pillars that will line the walkway will highlight those donors who are donating $2,500 and above. So a lot of really great opportunities, a ton of information on the website. Of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook as well, and you can always reach out if you have any questions.
okay, anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've had a lot of good news tonight. Now we've got some, it's also good news, but it's with mixed feelings, this news. We're going to be saying goodbye in the next couple of days, but this is the last meeting of our Assistant City Manager, Economic Development Director. So Teresa, would you step forward, please? So Teresa has been with us for 7 years, and she has served as Economic Development Director and Assistant City Manager. During that time, she has excelled in both positions, and she has selflessly given more than her share. She has filled in twice for extended period of times as acting city manager, frequently for a few days here, a few days there when the city manager's out as acting city manager. And anything that was ever asked of Teresa, she has done. So Teresa, it's going to be with, it's good for you. Teresa's getting a city manager's position in Selma, California, and we're very happy for her for that. Yeah. And it's not that far away, so some of us will be visiting you. So this is presented from the City of Lompoc, presented to Teresa Gallivan, Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager, September 12th, 2011 through October 19th, 2018. In grateful recognition to your valuable service and dedication to the City of Lompoc and its citizens. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
You want to say a few words? You want to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, members of the community, and my colleagues here at the city. It's been an honor to work with the City of Lompoc for the last 7 years and to serve this community. I'm proud and thankful to have been part of our many accomplishments over these 7 years, from filling commercial and industrial vacant spaces, to renovating parks and ball fields, the Aquatic Center, the Anderson Recreation Center, to promoting tourism and being part of starting the first business improvement district, Explore Lompoc, to special events like the collaboration we did with NASA and Explore Lompoc, where we hosted the viewing for InSight Mission to Mars at the airport. We've just done some great things together, and I'm so thankful to have played a small part in that. And there's so many people to thank for this opportunity. I'd like to name a few. I know I won't get everybody, but please know I am so thankful to everybody who has been encouraging and supportive and collaborative, from the city manager, Laurel Barcelona, that hired me, and the council that supported her in that, to the subsequent city managers and councils that I've been able to work with, my colleagues here at City Hall, the executive management team, admin, the Economic and Community Development Department. We have such a great team, and I'm so thankful that together we've collaborated and done so many things that I think make a difference in the community. And all city staff, truly, and the community organizations and partners we've been able to collaborate with for public-private partnerships to do things that we just couldn't afford to do without volunteers to make a difference. So please know how much I thank you and how great this experience has been. And I will take it with me and continue to do great things, I hope, in the community that I'm joining. And I know the people here will continue to do great things. And last but not least, I want to thank my husband, Ken Van Vechten, who's in the audience. Ken, could you please stand up? He's always been so supportive and encouraging, and I couldn't do it without him. So thank you, Ken. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Well, Teresa, good luck to you. Our loss, but Selma's gain. And you know how to get back if you ever want to come and visit us and drink some really good wine. Okay. Okay. Back to the agenda, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What I'd like to do for this report is actually give the council and the community an update on what we've been able to do so far with our temporary triage center over at River Park. And so I'm going to be asking the police chief to start us off on the update from his perspective.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. First, I just want to start, as you know, September 10th was the start of the 30 of the evictions. And on that day, just to reiterate, everyone that was living in the river self-evicted. There were no arrests. Everybody was very cooperative, and we were pleasantly surprised, if not overwhelmed, to have 56 people show up at the triage center. That's never happened in other cities that have attempted to do this. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The triage center has been it's been bumpy. Not all entities seeing eye to eye, but we all understand that we all come from a different angle. And Mark Oshamal and Brian Halterman, who is here in the audience, are to be commended for keeping the peace amongst all of us and focusing our passionate advocacy. The security, to be honest, there's little to no control. After dark, during this time period, drug dealers are calling out and sending signals to folks that are in the triage center, and people are going in and out of the riverbed using drugs. Traffickers are coming in, coming through the tents looking for women. We've been able to run those folks off with our security guard, but it's been extremely hard to manage. Many folks have been kicked out of the triage center for rule violations and or being arrested. Many have taken the tents provided in triage and are setting them up in the river and then taking them down during the daytime and hiding them. So when we go along, it just looks like the camp that it used to be. But at night, obviously, when we're not there, they're living in the riverbed. Unfortunately, some of the folks have not taken advantage of the help being offered, much to everybody pouring their hearts out, trying to help them. It's been very disappointing. We have a couple more days left. I hope they seek that help. We all knew that, entering in this endeavor, that not everybody was going to seek help or be helped. So that doesn't lessen, that knowledge doesn't really lessen our grief for those individuals. Everybody out there working with these individuals has a huge heart for them, and you'll hear some good stories from Christy Alarcon, but I'm the police, so I'm not going to say anything good. but I'm just saying that we are. It hurts our heart that some of the people aren't getting the help that they need. The police department is still patrolling the river, and we are finding camps during the day. Most of the time they're empty. When we're looking in the camps, we're finding weapons and tents and property that appears to be stolen in the camps, just like it was a couple months ago. We've arrested approximately 8 people since September 10th in the riverbed for a variety of things, mostly trespassing, but some had warrants and some drug charges. We've only made 3 arrests inside of the triage center, and those were for warrants and or drugs. Just to give an example of not everybody's in the same place there. There's some folks with mental illness, some with really hard addictions. There's a lot going on, and then there's a whole bunch of folks that really want help. One of the individuals we arrested had a knife and a hatchet and a loaded syringe, and he had made threats to commit suicide by police in the past. So I'm really proud of the officers, the way that they've approached this endeavor and the way they've treated people. Because my hope was that we weren't going to make any arrests, but we knew that was going to happen. Because new charge is not going to really help somebody in a vulnerable homeless position. It's not going to help them get out of the homeless situation. But we are making arrests when we need to. The police department has committed a lot of personnel time towards the eviction and the triage center. Sergeant Martin has ramrodded the effort and has done an excellent job. Officer Calderon has been a constant, working as our homeless liaison officer. Several officers have signed up for missions and they've gone down in the river. You know, it takes more than one person going in the river. Both Officer Calderon and Sergeant Martin have intimate knowledge of the river and the camps and the homeless persons from the river. And Sergeant Martin is kind of our technology guy, and he, from the very beginning, purchased an app. And everything they've done is on this app at every camp and every site. He's GPSed everything. It's really well documented what he's been doing, and Officer Calderon. My direction for the officers going forward is zero tolerance for individuals re-inhabiting the river. If they're allowed to go back in the river, then this was all for naught, and we'll be back at this in a couple months. That said, I think that we need to go into that river and clean up the trash and cut the foliage down that we can, so that we can. It's very unmanageable, and it takes a full day for 2 officers that walk that 3 miles, and we miss a lot. And so you're going to hear a little bit about that in another update from Stacy. Just to give you a little synopsis of what's going to go on, October 10th at 12 o'clock is the deadline for the end of the triage center. We are going to assist Mark Oshamal, the director, and Brian Halterman with closing the triage center. The Parks Division will close the park, and we're going to actually check people in and out so that we know who's coming and going. We know all our service providers, but we want to make sure that we have a little bit of control on who comes and goes. This will maintain some order and also allow those leaving a semblance of dignity. There will be officers in the river so that those leaving exit the park and not into the riverbed. The park is also being closed because, like I said, we really don't want looky-loos or media or the community members curious coming down there. That's not very respectful of the folks that are in the triage center. Again, my hope is that we don't make any arrests and that everything is peaceful, and I think it will be. Everybody there has a pretty good relationship with the service providers. Just some closing remarks. I'm really amazed at the county providers that have stepped up. They are incredible. It would take me a half an hour to tell you all the things they've done, and they really do care about the homeless. Mark Oshamal and Brian Halterman are my heroes. They have more love in their hearts than 10 men. Sorry. We will have to debrief this. The location wasn't ideal. It still isn't ideal. You know, in hindsight, the triage should have been away from the problem. In this case, the riverbed is the problem. It should have been out of the view of the public a little more. Should have had a little more control on ingress and egress. This would, again, allow more dignity for the occupants. It would eliminate the drug dealing, or at least limit it. It would help us stop human trafficking. Unfortunately, that is going on. And going forward with the winter approaching, if any other city decides to do this, they should probably talk to us first so they don't make the same mistakes. Trash, like I said, trash cleanup and the brush removal, it's essential to the successful completion. We're not going to complete this mission if we don't do that. If we don't, we're going to be back in a couple months. Mayor and council members, I'd like to applaud you for your courage to do this. This is not an easy thing to do. You know, we all know it's fraught with danger and liability, and you took the initiative and you did it. So I want to thank you for that. That said, I'm proud of the work that the city and the county have done, and even our faults and mistakes, I still think we did it the right way and the compassionate way. That's my update. I'm here for questions. Christy Alarcon is going to talk about the folks we have helped and what's going on in the triage center.
So as always, I get to be your ray of sunshine, a little bit. So as of this morning, there were 30 clients sleeping at the Riverbed Triage Center. The highest number we got of people that actually hit the triage center was 62. While many have left the triage center because whether they do not want to comply with the rules, we actually do have rules out there. 5 left on their own, 10 have been asked to leave because of violation of rules, and 1 was asked to leave after staff had worked really hard and all the service providers had worked really hard to get him a detox bed, and he didn't want to go. So we asked him to leave. There have been positive outcomes though. We had one client that is probably well known around town, I won't say who, but was able to get into behavioral wellness and finally make that connection and get in and get evaluated. So not at the triage center anymore, receiving services. 6 clients have entered drug and alcohol treatment programs. That in itself is a huge success. We've had 5 clients enter the Good Samaritan shelters. So that means those 5 clients got clean and sober, detoxed, so that they could test clean and get into those shelters. Yet another huge success. We've moved 2 into permanent housing. 2 does not seem like a lot, but for people just living in a riverbed, moving into a unit of their own is amazing. 1 was reunified with family up north, and 1 was placed in permanent supportive housing, which is one of the best placements ever for someone who needs those type of wraparound services. All of these accomplishments have occurred in 3 weeks. That is amazing. I have to say that in my experience in working in shelter services, it is a very service-resistant population we're working with. All of those service providers that have been out there from the county, our local nonprofits, have been doing amazing, amazing work. Specifically, I really want to recognize our volunteers and our staff who have been there every day at the triage center, including PD, being the stick for us, for lack of a better term. But Mark Oshamala, Pastor Brian Halterman and his wife Renee, and Chaplain Keith Quinlan. This couldn't have been possible without them. The balance of their compassion, which I know was questioned at times, but I know how compassionate these people are and how much they care about this community, coupled with tough love, has been critical in ensuring the safety for all clients at the triage center, as well as its success. So thank you so much, Pastor. I appreciate that you were able to come today. And Sylvia, you have an amazing employee there at Good Sam. So that's what we've done so far. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the triage center. Thank you.
Councilmember Mosby.
You know, one thing that happened as well before this is when the starting date, there were people who assimilated the week or 2 or 3 before. So you guys, you know, the long announcement that you made that it's coming, and coming, and there were other people. So there are more people that got taken care of well before this. So the long process of waiting. One of the questions I've had, some of the people have come to me and they said, I'm so close. I have opportunities in later October. What do I do for this, 5-10 days? I mean, what can we do with that?
I would strongly encourage, so this was a triage center. There was a misconception out there that this was a holding pattern place to get into permanent housing. We all know the housing crisis that we're in here. We don't know how long that would have taken. My vision of the triage center was just like you think of an emergency room, stop the bleeding, move them to get operated on, whatever the immediate need was to take care of. In my mind, we have shelters, we have shelter beds, and where there aren't shelter beds locally, we can find some. We've been offering shelter beds. We have people that don't take them. We have people that are clean and sober and don't take them. We have people who are actively using, and have been offered detox. It's a 7-day detox program. They're at day 7. Those that cannot get into the shelter because they're actively using, they need to take advantage of those open detox beds that are being offered to them free of charge. get clean and get into a shelter and begin working with a case manager like Good Samaritan provides, case management services, to assist them into finding permanent housing and permanent solutions to end homelessness for good for them. So it's not hopeless. 7 days is still enough time that if you have small barriers, there are shelter beds open. You can get into the shelter, and there is absolutely no reason to go back into the riverbed unless you choose to.
How many beds are available? Just
I've been
off your head, I
told
know.
that we will find a bed. If you're a woman, the way the shelter system typically works is women and children get priority preference. So if you're a woman, you're getting into the shelter, the guy gets bumped. So I would say there's shelter beds, and we'll find them. I know there's 5 detox beds right now that were found in a different county. And those beds have been offered. They choose not to take them.
One thing I'd say with the chief, whatever you guys have been doing in the last week has really calmed the nighttime charades that were happening. So whatever you guys did, it seems to mellow it out significantly.
Well, and going forward from tonight on, we're going to be in the river at nighttime, and we have some equipment to help us see better. It's pretty dark out there, and quite frankly, the only person that knows the river as well as the folks that have lived there is probably Calderon and Martin. So, but we're going to be in the river.
Yeah, with ingress, egress through the road and such is significantly reduced. I know for the first couple of weeks there was every 5 or 10 minutes, officers were coming in and out, and we could hear them, a quarter mile away of the activity going down there. So,
but unfortunately, it's nice for the social workers because everybody that they can work with is there. They don't have to go find folks. But it's also created a problem with people that have addiction problems because they're in one place for the drug dealers. So we're working on the drug dealers too, but yeah, we're trying.
I know it's been a big challenge, and I appreciate you guys stepping up and, digging through this and getting it to where we are now. And I'm glad to hear that there are options seems like everybody is willing.
Councilmember Osborne.
One more individual we need to thank is Christy Alicorn for stepping up after we lost Laura Doubles, who initiated this plan. Thank you for stepping up and taking over and being out there on a regular basis and managing all of this program and really making sure that we implemented it as best we could, given this was an unknown scenario and we were really sort of testing the waters for other communities. So thank you both, Chief Walsh and everyone who stepped up, and Christy for stepping up and organizing it and sort of managing it all. Thank you.
Also, thank you. Thank you for Pastor, Sylvia, everyone else that was involved. One person I think we have neglected to thank, our fire department as well. Chief, thank you for all of your assistance. But our new city manager, Jim Troop, he sort of on day one stepped into this event. And Mr. Troop, I want to thank you for all the work you've done. I know you're going to be very humble and say you've done nothing, but I know the work you've done. And the chief will arrest you if you try to lie. So go ahead.
It is. I stepped into this, but it was already a plan in place. So I'm just the figurehead at the moment. So I thank you. But one of the things going back, the triage, is, by definition, is to assess a situation and fix it. And in this case, that's what we're doing here. And the city has, I've been in 2 other situations like this, and Lompoc has gone above and beyond the other 2 situations. And one of them was Oxnard with 210,000 people that had a budget that could, work with that type of a cost. We as a city said, we have to dig into reserves to do this, and that says a lot to the city. That says we're going to help as many people as we can at a large cost to the city. One of the things when I heard was for those that haven't found anything, but as you heard, there are opportunities out there. We're just trying to get those people to accept them and go forward with it. Going forward, though, the county has offices here in town. They have other offices throughout the whole county, and they're there to help whoever wants the help. So it's really just a matter of getting over there. We have the buses going every which way, so it has possibilities. It never was designed to be a housing situation. It was really just to assess a person. What do they need? Do they need transitional? Go here. Do they need this? Go there. I think staff, as you've heard, has done a tremendous job. I definitely wanted Christy to tell you all the successes that have happened so far. I think it's beyond anything I've had yet as a success. And again, with Oxnard, a much larger city, and we didn't come close to having that type of a success. There is the second part. Part of it's going to come later in the evening, but I do want to ask Stacy Lawson. She's been behind the scenes, not really people seeing what's going on. So if she can come up and give you an idea of the cleanup that has happened so far and just a little bit more information.
Okay, Mayor, council members. We are actually getting to the point of wrapping up our phase 1 of the cleanup. And that entails going through all of the properties that the city owns and sanitizing the human waste areas. As well, picking up any sharps that can be found, and in some cases there were quite a many, quite a number of them. And at the same time, the contractor has taken tents and tarps that were left in the riverbed and will be disposing of them. And also has demolished structures that they found. So that was their task, and they are wrapping that up. They'll be finished tomorrow. And so that is basically the end of our phase 1 attack. And then phase 2 will begin. Phase 2 is intended to get the materials that are remaining out of the riverbed. It's going to be a long process. There's a lot of stuff in there. As the chief alluded to, we also are looking at having some of the most specific areas with a lot of vegetation and difficulty getting to the materials that need to be removed, trimmed to the extent that we can trim them without having to go through the stream bed alteration agreement process. In addition, long range, we may be talking about using something like goats to help reduce the level of vegetation in the riverbed. Thank you, and are there any questions?
Any questions? Oh, Councilmember Starbuck.
Probably to Mr. Troop. With the riverbank stabilization project complete, was there any compromise on our work with FEMA and what has happened down there?
As far as I know, on the project that was done, I don't know, is Kevin? No, oh, you could make, no, there wasn't, none that I'm aware of. It's other parts of it that have had a number of, the degradation that was happened through all the digging out of different areas that people have lived in. That is a concern that I do have, and that sort of relates to one of the agenda.
We have Mike Luther that may be able to add some comments.
Mike Luther, city engineer. As far as the stabilization project, there hasn't been any effect at this point because we haven't actually done the planting mitigation, but that is about to start. And so once the plants are in place, we don't want to be trampling over them to clean up trash. But there are at least 2 areas within the project area that have quite a bit of trash.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Troop, anything else?
No, that was the end of the report. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, public comment on the consent calendar. Anyone wants to speak to us on the consent calendar? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment on the consent calendar, bring it back to the council. The consent calendar consists of items that are generally considered routine and will be passed with one motion by a council member. Yes. Okay. Wait, did you want the consent calendar? Okay. As soon as it's, yeah, go ahead and get up there. That's okay. Okay, so go ahead and, this is public, I'm going to reopen public comment on the consent calendar. Go ahead.
My name is Sylvia Bernard. I'm the Executive Director of Good Samaritan Shelter, and I am just here in support of the staff for the declaration of the shelter crisis. Approving that tonight is really important. It will bring obviously new resources to the homeless situation within the city and then just outside of the city as well. And I think it's a great opportunity. I'm also the governing board chair of the Continuum of Care for Santa Barbara County that will be receiving the funds and distributing them. And I just really think that in light of everything that's happened and all the hard work that has gone on with the riverbed and the shelter crisis that we currently have being full at capacity, I think it's a really great opportunity to bring some resources in that is a one-time opportunity. So I support the staff on that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on consent? Okay, we're going to close consent calendar, and we're going to, again, bring it back to the council. Consent calendar consists of items that are generally considered routine and will be passed with one motion by the council unless a council member chooses to pull an item. Does any council member wish to pull an item? Councilmember Vega.
I'd like to recommend that we accept consent calendar. Make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved. We have a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to oral communication. This is your opportunity to speak to us on any item that can come before the council.
To the City Council members present, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Regina Aguirre Schmidt, and I'm a homeless person currently at the Triage Center. I became homeless a short time ago. I would like to publicly thank Pastor Brian Halterman, Mark Ashamala, Ms. Alkanon, and Chief Walsh for their tireless efforts. I also thank all the endless resources made available through Santa Barbara County and the community of Lompoc, 7 days a week. I am here to speak for the 30 residents still residing at the Triage Center, including myself. We are apprehensive of our housing situation with such a short time left. We are all varied in unique situations. Some are seniors with housing vouchers of Section 8. Some just have housing vouchers. Some are on the list for housing. Others need rehabilitation for addictions. And others have health issues, whether they're diabetic or, like me, allergic to salt. And like me, I would just like a room to rent, even if it's with someone in the community like Chief Walsh offered or spoke in the newspaper to the community to open up their homes. Some might need further help for their emotional or mental disabilities. We are all individuals and need to be treated in that manner. I feel safe at the Triage Center right now. I always have from the first day I walked in. But now I'm a little, like I said, apprehensive of what's going to happen to me. For example, I'm on my second interview at the Shumash Casino. I passed the first part, now I'm going for my gaming license, while I'm looking for a place to live. It's all a process and it takes steps. And 9 days might not be enough. I would please like you to take consideration of that and find it in your hearts to reassess the situation. And I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm willing to answer.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Travis Boer. I'm a 12,000 volt electrical line troubleshooter for the city of Lompoc. And it's kind of discussion that was happening earlier. I'd like to bring to everybody's attention the shortage of people in the department. What has not been brought up is 3 of the employees. It was brought up like 2.4 people were missing. But 3 of the employees are apprentices, which it takes 4 years for an apprentice to actually be qualified to work on 12,000 volts. And also it takes 9 years for somebody to be qualified to run a crew. And also within the next 3 years, there is going to be 2 foremen, 2 troubleshooters, and an apprentice, all eligible to retire. Also, the electrical supervisor will be eligible to retire. So that's 5 really experienced men eligible to retire within the next 2 years, and we're already shorthanded 2.4 people, and 3 people aren't going to be qualified to even work on 12,000 volts for another 3 years. So yes, we are in dire need of linemen really, really soon. I've been called out, and it's been really hard to find qualified guys to come give me help. So far, everybody has been really willing to come in and help. Nobody wants people to be out of power, but it's hard to find people to come in. And if we do find people, we have the very, very minimum amount of people to do the job to get done. And it's hard. You're putting a lot of stress on small amounts of people to get big jobs done. We're out all night long. People's power could be on a lot quicker if we had more personnel. And a lot of people are concerned. They think, well, when storms hit, there's going to be an issue. When you're shorthanded, when storms hit, there's going to be an issue. It's not just storms. It's maintenance work. There's been wire that's been in the ground for 30 years. It's getting ready to explode any moment. There's rotten arms up in the air getting ready to fall and hit the ground. If anybody's watched the news and has seen PG&E on the news and Edison on the news, they're in trouble because they're not maintaining their lines properly. They're hitting the ground. It's catching wildfires. Montecito's on fire. Santa Barbara's on fire. Maintenance is very important, and you can't do maintenance without employees. I'm trying to help you guys be proactive. I don't want to see this town getting hardships that it doesn't need to have when this could be solved, and it could be solved quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication, and we're going to move on to item number 7, which is an appointment. This is an appointment to the Youth Commission, and I think it was a little confusing for me because this, I believe, is an adult position. Is Mario still here? Mario, this is an adult position that's open. Yes, okay. So it's an adult position. We have 1 opening, I believe, and we have 1 candidate for that. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to appoint Melissa Resendez to an adult appointment of the Youth Commission.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Is Melissa here by any chance? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So Melissa, if you're watching, congratulations and welcome to the Youth Commission. We'll now move on to item number 7, which is introduction of ordinance number 1653, parentheses 18, rescinding former recycled water fee. And that is, who's doing, okay, Susan.
Okay. Oh.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to discuss recycled water fee. Excuse me. This first slide gives you a little bit of background. On April 16th, 1990, the City Council adopted an urgency ordinance which required that you can no longer use potable water, which is our regular drinking water, for construction sites for dust control and compaction. At the same time, the council also authorized the use of recycled water from the city's wastewater plant. On May 1st, 1990, the City Council adopted another urgency ordinance, which established a fee of $1 per 100 cubic feet, which is 748 gallons. That's our billing unit. The city was recently required by the State Water Resources Control Board to get an updated program permit, and that was approved on January 25th, 2018. The cost of producing recycled water has increased significantly since 1990. The city's current fiscal year 2018-19 cost to treat wastewater effluent, which is the water coming in, is approximately $16 million per 1 billion gallons of the incoming influent. This cost is equal to 1.6 cents per gallon or $11.97 per HCF, which is 748 gallons. Staff reviewed water use fees and administrative fees of other wastewater plants to determine a competitive rate for the city. These water use fees range from $1.97 per 100 cubic feet to $742 per 100 cubic feet. The average water use fees, removing the top two high numbers, which is 742 and above, is 269 HCF. Our current recycled water use rate is very low. It's $1 per HCF, and again, that goes back to 1990. We have never raised that rate. Staff is proposing a recycled water use fee of $2.69, which is a very competitive rate per HCF. This is a 23% recovery rate of the recycled water production cost, and again, those costs are at $11.97 per HCF, or 748 gallons. We also reviewed administrative costs to implement the program, and I'd like to mention that our permit cost us almost $40,000 to be able to continue to implement this program. And we found that $215 annually would, and this would be for the first month that a company would go to the wastewater plant to get recycled water, and then $153 thereafter for a full year. These costs would repeat each year. The annual $215 fee covers administrative costs of a site inspection, which we're required to do, recycled water permit, supervision by an operator, recycled water fill-up, state and recycled water reports that have to be completed, and invoice preparation. The $153 monthly reoccurring cost covers administrative costs for a monthly site inspection, completion of state and city recycled water reports, and invoice preparation. If a company does not comply with the program, then we stand to lose our permit. The annual $215 fee makes sure that recycled water customers renew their permits and follow the state required guidelines. Attachment 3 is the next chart, and it does include the fees from the other agencies. And I apologize ahead of time, this chart is a little small. So I'm going to go over these fees. Again, this chart actually gives you a list of the other agencies which we surveyed, and you have I'm going to read just some of them. The town of Yountville, which is the high one, it's $7.42. Marin Municipal Water District, $2.76. Some of the others, Napa, a low one at $1.17. Santa Rosa, $2.66. San Jose, $2.87. San Jose Water Company is a high of $4.03. Then you have a low of East Bay Municipal of $1.97, and the others are in the $2 range, and City of Santa Barbara is $3.02. With the city council approval, the administrative fees would be adjusted annually if needed to make sure that the city recaptured 100% recovery of the administrative fees and 23% recovery of the water use fees to continue to implement the recycled water program. The next chart, which is attachment 40 report, compares the proposed recycled water fees to potable water, that's drinking water, for a 3-inch hydrant meter, and that's the majority of the jobs for a construction job. The monthly water service fee for 3-inch meter is $346.37. The water use fee is $4.80. So our proposed water use fee is only 56% of that. This next chart again is small. I'm sorry we could not make this a lot larger. This summarizes what we're proposing. The proposed water use fee is $2.69. And again, that's 23% recovery of the recycled water production cost. The admin costs for the first month, and this would occur on a yearly basis, are proposed to be $215. The monthly reoccurring cost would be $153. Then the bottom compares on your far left on the bottom, compares your drinking water cost. Again, $346.37, and the water use cost is $4.80. So that's quite a bit more. And what we're proposing is $2.69 for your water use fee, $215 for the first month for the admin fee, and then the second month through the 12th month, $153. Ordinance number 1653, paren 18, would rescind our ordinance 1324. Oh, that should not be 18, excuse me. That's 1324-90, which only includes a water use fee of $1 per 100 cubic feet and doesn't include any administrative fees to implement the program. Attachment 4, again, which you just saw, includes the proposed water use fee of $2.69 per HCF, or 748 gallons, for all customers purchasing water. Again, this is a 23% recovery of recycled water cost. This is proposed to be adjusted annually if needed, and these costs would be part of all the other city fees that you look at. Attachment 4 also includes your admin fees, which we just discussed, the $215 for the first month, and again, this is a new customer, and the $153 recurring fees. Again, administrative fees are proposed for 100% recovery, and they would repeat annually. Adopting ordinance number 1653-18 and the resolution 62-18 will implement a water use fee with a 23% recovery rate and administrative fees with 100% recovery rate. The recovery use percentages are proposed for the present and the future with council periodic review. The staff recommends the following: that the City Council hold a public hearing, which is being held now, introduce for the first reading by title only with further reading waived, ordinance number 1653, paren 18, which rescinds ordinance number 1324-90 concerning the recycled water use fee, and adopt resolution number 6219, paren 18, which establishes a new recycled water use fee and administrative fees to implement the recycled water program. I'm available for any questions.
Councilor Mosby.
Other than just taking the average, is there any other reason why we did the 23% of cost recovery on the unit?
Yes, we were taking a look. We wanted to get about 60% of our potable rate costs, and and that is about 56%. So that's basically what we did. And taking a look at the other, we wanted a rate that was competitive. And the other thing that I didn't mention here is that in addition to being able to sell recycled water within our city limits, our permit allows us to sell within 30 miles of the city. We have a current wind project that is going to happen in Miguelito Canyon. We have a letter promising them that we will sell them recycled water. If our permit had been in place, we would have been able to sell Caltrans water as they were doing their project on 246.
Do you have any idea how much water we might be selling down the road? I mean, you have some averaging, I guess, on how much we're selling currently out of the hydrants.
Right.
I mean, do you have a historical number that we could ballpark at all?
I think Robert does. Robert Archer is our acting superintendent. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers at my fingertips.
Currently, we're permitted to sell up to 62,000 gallons per day. So I don't know what numbers we were selling as far as out of hydrants, but that's what we're allowed to sell. Went through the permitting process, and everybody involved decided that was the number that we could divert out of our outfall.
So we're not looking at significant dollars here. It's more of a good thing to do type of thing, I guess.
Yes, it'll provide access to recycled water for certain construction uses. The permit specifies what it's all about, but it'll enable someone who is paying the full rate of drinking water to get a lesser rate, and it'll also provide more water for services such as household use or business use by using the recycled water instead.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to mention that when we decided the 62,000 gallons a day, that I know all of you are aware that the majority of our wastewater influent recharges our basin. So we were looking at a maximum, even higher amount, and with the regulations, 62,000 is our starting point. We may be able, if we want to expand that a little bit, we would have to upgrade our permit, but this is a good starting point.
Councilmember Vega.
Susan, if you wouldn't mind, they mentioned construction could possibly use the recycled water. So this is effluent from the wastewater that's been treated to a point where it's now deemed recycled water, which is actually, depending on who you ask, is actually potable water to a point. I don't know that you drink it, but there's people that have, I guess. Okay, so I was wondering, like, the percentage of income that's going to be generated or revenue going to be generated by here. Is it minimal, or are we expecting some sort of an explosion here in housing and construction? The last time that I actually checked into this, there wasn't a viable method to load recycled water onto someone else's vehicle, and I don't know if that's improved. I'm not exactly sure how you load the recycled water, because I remember there was some sort of I don't think that we were up to par on how we were going to load someone else's vehicle with recycled water.
Okay, I want to address that. We do have what's considered a trucked recycled water program. That means that someone has to have a truck. They go to the wastewater plant, and then they have to bring it out to site. Now, what you have for your potable water is someone has to choose a hydrant meter, they have to have a truck, and they bring that out to their site as well. That is a little bit closer, however, we feel like we've compensated that in terms of the rate. We do not have piped recycled water. That's at a much higher level, and I don't think we have enough recycled water that would justify that at this point.
Also, the monthly site inspections that you cited, and there's a cost to that for whoever's using recycled water. Are those mandatory by the state, or is that something that is city imposed as far as the site inspections monthly?
It's a combination, and I think Robert can talk a little bit more about that. We have our permit. We do have to inspect those sites to make sure that they have the proper signage, and even simple things like they're not spilling recycled water on the ground. They have a certain number of days that they have to use the recycled water, and he can address some of the inspection.
One more question, and then we can go to
Okay.
that if it's okay. That way I get you all at once here.
Sure.
The proposed adjustment, yearly adjustments that were mentioned, should we approve this, is there an obligation on our part as far as to actually make a rate adjustment based on recommendation from staff? There's many times that we have been asked to approve something, and all of a sudden, we're obligated to make that adjustment. Not sure if city manager or city attorney can address that as far as, so it says proposed would be, rate adjustments would be looked at a yearly rate. I'm just wondering if there's any obligation on the council's end to
Well-
actually address that once, should the rates change.
Okay, I can mention one thing, and I think maybe Dean can help because he worked on this with us.
One of the things we put in there was the amount of what it's costing us. Can you still hear me? Sorry about that.
We can hear you now.
And we're passing it based on cost recovery, so as our costs go up, we can automatically adjust without coming back to council each time. That's what the 23 and the 100% of the cost are. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. I think we had one other question that you wanted Robert to address also.
Sure. And then I wanted to make one other comment. Just as you have a master fee schedule and you look at those, Dean, how often do we look at the master fees?
Well, we do, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We do the same thing with the master fee schedule. We brought it to you guys. We did it based upon cost recoveries. We try and do that every time we do a new budget, but we also like to bring the consultant in and have them reassess what we've done. So.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Oh, Robert, yes.
Well, you mentioned about the site inspection. That is something that is mandated in our permit, that we have to do a site inspection at least once at the beginning of the job or any time that seems feasible. And what would happen is probably the wastewater operations supervisor would go out and look at the job site, make sure all the uses that are required by the permit are being met and required to fill out paperwork. And then it also involves appointing a person who is at the job site all the time, an employee of whoever's doing the project, to make sure that those are being enforced. We also have the ability to, at any time, whether pre-arranged or not, to go out to a job site and make sure that everything is in order as far as our.
Now, is that fee a fee that's just been imposed in order to create revenue, or is there actually something you're looking for when someone uses recycled water? Because it seems like the infringement would be minimal if someone was to just be putting recycled water on a site. I'm not sure if it would be contaminant for outside the area or if it's just another constructive fee.
Okay. The way this was calculated is, as was mentioned, we can deliver water within a 30-mile radius. So we figured on average, it would probably take an hour of someone's time to go either in town or to another location to actually physically inspect the site. Also, there's fees involved there's a little bit of training that the operator of the truck or company would have to go through to learn how to do it properly. And there would be some time involved with when a person comes to the plant for an operator to go out, turn on the pumps, fill up the truck, so forth. So that was put in there. And also there would be some time involved with the office assistant at the plant monthly to gather the information, put it into a form of a bill and forward that to the billing department, and some also for the accounting department. So those were the various considerations that we had. We tried to make it as minimal as possible and so as to not have the cost to be high.
So the cost and the administrative fees will all be returned back to the utility, is that correct?
Yes.
These are cost fees that are going to go directly back to this utility?
Yes.
Which is wastewater, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll open this up to the public. Would like to address this issue? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to the council. Councilor Starbuck.
Well, I know it's been several years in the making, and I'm glad we're finally done with it. So I'd like to go ahead and move that we accept staff recommendation and introduce ordinance 1653, parentheses 18.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, adoption of resolution number 6220, parentheses 18, proclaiming a local emergency relating to the cleanup of the San Ynez Riverbed. City Manager. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this item and the next one are interrelated, so you might hear repetition from the two. So I'm going to read just quickly off of the recommendations, make sure I hit all of that. It just says, staff recommends the City Council to adopt the resolution proclaiming a local emergency relating to the cleanup of the San Ynez Riverbed, also requesting the County of Santa Barbara to proclaim a local emergency, as well as requesting the Governor of California to proclaim a state of emergency, and requesting financial and other assistance with the cleanup from the federal government, state government, county, and any other agencies. So it's very broad. You don't usually just do an emergency proclamation or request unless it truly is an emergency. So with this one, what we have, as you heard earlier, the riverbed issue is actually more than probably people understand. They think there might just be a lot of trash, but the trash, the waste, everything down there, the degradation of the riverbank, once staff was able to get in there to see what had been done over a number of years, it's very substantial. And so as we were going through, how do we afford to do this as a city? It's going to be expensive. We came upon the idea with the California Emergency Services Act and the Disaster Assistance Act. They provide tools for local entities to request financial assistance when the local agency does not have the financial resources to appropriately respond to an emergency and requires assistance from the state and other local entities. Also, when an emergency has been declared in a local jurisdiction, which is what we're doing tonight, the governor may request and appropriate any state money available to respond and address the emergency. The governor may also declare a state of emergency in the affected area and request federal assistance. This doesn't mean I have a pocket or a pot of gold at the end that I'm going to go get. It's the first step, and it's that if you don't buy a lotto ticket, you know you're not going to win. So in this case, we're going to be reaching out to the county. They're also working on their own emergency declaration. I'm going to be forwarding this if it's approved tonight. They'll be taking it to the Board of Supervisors in a very similar manner, requesting that they adopt it. And then we as a group, the two of us will go, not the two cities and county, attach it to and send it to the governor's office, at which point we'll ask for assistance and then possibly take it up to a level of even asking FEMA. There is the talk we had that why wait for the emergency to happen? Because when the emergency happens, that's when life is at stake, a much higher cost to fix whatever is there. So our plea will be to say, do something now before we have a disaster on our hands. And once we get the cleanup, we've actually, and you'll hear this again, we'll have the Army Corps of Engineers said they can come in and look and tell us their level of interest in the bank stabilization. Is it as bad as we think? Is it so-so? They'll come in and give us an idea, but we can't do anything until we have the trash out of the area. So in this case, it's just asking for approval to declare it an emergency. We can then take that and use it potentially to look at any other funds that might be available. So that was all I had.
Any questions? Councilor Mosby.
Yeah, page 3 of 4, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th paragraph. I think it's important. Maybe you guys could read it so the public understands when we say an emergency that you're not taking on these the next level of powers.
Yeah, I can read this. It says under the subdivision and all the 2.36.06A 6 and section 3.36180 of the Lompoc Municipal Code and Public Contracts Code 20168, proclaiming a local emergency, grants the city manager additional emergency powers, such as the power to adopt emergency laws and the power of increased spending authority without council review. Also suspends certain city purchasing rules. However, resolution, which is the one we're talking about tonight, 6220, parentheses 18, finds those additional emergency powers are not necessary at this time, and affirmatively states that those additional powers shall not be effective for this emergency proclamation. Additionally, the city attorney is unsure whether the purpose and subject of this declaration of emergency fully meets the statutory requirements to allow those additional emergency powers to the city manager. So I am not asking to, wave my magic wand, so we'll pull that part out.
Yeah, I think that was important. But likewise, if we declare this as such, are there other groups that are above us would potentially have the opportunity? If we declared it, they'd say, well, maybe you didn't, but they would maybe be able to have increased powers over us?
I have to ask our city attorney. I don't know if he knows off the top of his head.
No, that wouldn't happen.
It would be like FEMA coming in and enacting
no, we
certain
had
moratoriums or something like that, or curfews.
No, when we were, I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry. When I was up in Paso when we had the earthquake in 2003, FEMA didn't come in to tell us what to, you had to do this all of a sudden. They actually, when we got the engineering done, said, no, that didn't work or that didn't work. They had some oversight, but it wasn't that they came in with their hard hats on and took over the city or anything. It was us doing it and then submitting claims, and then they came out and reviewed it. So, no.
Just as long as we're doing this declaration, it doesn't allow for
right.
other entities to come in and make declarations on top of our declaration.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll open this up to public comment. And seeing no one rising, I'll bring it back to the council. What's your choice? Councilmember Vega.
I'm going to move that we approve this resolution, 6220, proclaiming a local emergency. It looks like we need to proclaim this so we can get additional assistance out there, because it looks like it's absolutely necessary to get everyone else to throw into the fund, so we're just not sitting there by ourselves. So that's my motion.
Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, adoption of resolution 1613, parentheses 18, approving supplemental appropriations for funding the riverbed cleanup. City manager.
Thank you. And again, this is about the riverbed cleanup. So in this one, it's two parts. One, it's asking for approval for additional appropriations up to, but not to exceed $532,000. And I have to make sure you understand it's the initial phase of the cleanup. We might be back. We don't know. The contractors, the different ones we talked to, could not even give us a quote. They had to quote time and materials because it was more than they could imagine. The second part of that is to, as those materials are brought out of the riverbed, is asking the council to waive the tipping fees at the landfill so this debris can be dumped at the landfill. So when I was looking through this, and I apologize, I had a little schedule. I forgot to give it to the city clerk to add to that. So I have it. I can bring that to you and give it to you. It breaks down what it is. We have about $400,000 is going to be for the large cleanup. That's going to be having a contractor come in, and because of all the different requirements, it's easier to go and do the cleanup from the top of the riverbed than down below because of the permitting. So essentially what we have the plan currently is that they'll have a very large boom crane that they'll be lowering a large container like a dumpster. They'll have a crew down in the riverbed that will be manually dumping everything into that dumpster. They'll haul it back up, put it into roll-off. Roll-off eventually fills up, and we take it to the landfill. That's a 3-mile stretch of manual labor just trying to fill it and pull it, fill it. So that's why the contractors couldn't give us a hard, fast number. They said, well, for 40 days, it's going to be about $400,000. And they'll move as quickly as possible. As we get through that, we can keep reassessing to see, where are we after 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. That's one piece of it. Another piece of it is actually going to be the trimming, as was mentioned earlier by the police chief. We can clean it up, but if we don't clean up the foliage down there, you can be 10 feet away and not see a person. So we have to get in there and have a crew. Sometimes they'll be following the cleanup. Sometimes they might have to go before the cleanup, but they'll be going through and trimming down dead trees, branches. They'll be trimming up they won't cut down the willows, but they'll trim up the willows. It's a cleanup so that either the PD can physically drive by, walk by, or if they had a drone, to drone by and see what's down there. Right now, once we clean it up, if we don't go back and do what was mentioned earlier in the beginning, we will have individuals immediately moving back in with a very clean house to live into. And we can't do that. So we need to then finish this part, and then again, as I said earlier, then we'll have to have the Corps of Engineers come in and say, what do we need to do to stabilize the bank? Because it has, I know some have gone down there, you've seen the amount of material that's been dug out of that by hand, and we need to do something to stabilize that. So on top of this 532, it's immediate need, because as we see tomorrow, we possibly have our winter rains coming in. We have to do this quickly and get it done as fast as possible, because if those rains come, I know, talking with Stacy earlier, there's a very large chance this year, I know we've said it in the past, but of substantial El Nino rains. If it hits that level where those individuals were living, it would just wash all of that downstream, which would be horrible for the environment, out to the beach. Nobody wants to walk along the beach stepping on hazardous stuff. And so time is of the essence. We are working with the county. We did send them our estimate because they needed to know. Bob Nelson, who works with our supervisor, Peter Adam, he needed to know something. So we sent him our estimate. He will then be presenting a similar agenda item to the Board of Supervisors requesting assistance for us. We don't know if it's 50-50 or some other portion of it, but at this point, we have to move forward just as we did with the triage center, which the county agreed to share the cost on that one, so we're hoping that they'll also share the cost on this piece. With that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Osborne.
Will there be environmental monitoring of the vegetation removal? I know that we have a lot of protected wildlife and wild plants out there that we get monitored for. So is that a part of this cost? Is that factored in?
That is part of the cost. There is a piece of machinery out there for, such as say, the coyote brush. It will remove that very quickly, but there could be other plants and animals in there. So not only do we have to have that person that we will contract with, we have a biologist that we've talked to, they've gone out, they reviewed it, and so they would be sort of a team going out there and saying, you can do this area. If there is a bush that we shouldn't touch, they'll actually flag it, tag it, and they'll go around that and then move on to the next area.
And then the second question I had is, given that there will be roll-offs collecting the garbage from the riverbed and building that up before it's taken up, I do know that we have an issue with dumpster diving, given we're trying to not reincur back down into it. So I'm hoping that we're looking at closed roll-offs or lockable roll-offs that after hours it can be shut down and prevent that sort of.
We can talk to the contractor. My thought was they would just empty it daily. It's just drive it out there, get rid of it so you don't have to worry about it, because the way they're presenting it right now, it'd be easier to have an open top. They can just dump it in. At the end of the day, they can just load it up, drop it off.
Councilmember Vega.
Mr. Throop, your background's in finance, so those are the questions I'm going to ask right here, and maybe we can ask these hard questions at this time. Sound like we're using waterfront reserves. Maybe you can tell us what the backlash of this. No one is disputing the cleanup aspect of it, but the repercussions and how our users are going to be affected by this, and the replenishment of the reserves, and where are we at right now, and what would it take us down to? And it sounds like there's going to be a step approach here that we're going to end up having to put in a lot more money. My concern is, there's a lot of questions here, but my concern is that we don't have a buy-in yet. We're kind of throwing money in without knowing whether they're going to buy into this. We're hoping. So what does that put? What's our risk factor there? The fact that the county has so far paid for people to be here, but they wouldn't even, as far as I know, they did not help us with the $40,000 or anything like that. Okay, maybe that was our cost. I think there's confusion out there in the public, the fact that it's city-owned property with a county jurisdiction, but no one's really taking ownership. Everyone wants a part in this because they want that feel good to know everybody's helping. But on a financial basis, where do we stand?
So that's a good question. So on the county for the triage piece, the initial budget was $40,000. And during one of our meetings, they did say, we can supply this. So it did bring the $40,000 down a portion. We had Good Sam contributed $3,400 to it. That brought it down a little bit more. So the county did agree to split the difference, which was about $12,000 to $15,000 at the end of the day. So they did say, yes, we'll cover half, you cover half of the actual financial costs. So to me, that was a good sign of good faith that they were putting a financial amount in there. On this piece, I did have, again, Bob Nelson asked for a number because he is going down to ask the county Board of Supervisors, or whoever's going to be presenting it will be asking for assistance. I don't know what assistance means. Again, is it 50-50, 60-40, something else? I will find that out. He was, I took what he said as there will be some kind of financial assistance coming. I don't know what that'll be yet, but he needed a number to go to the board with. From a reserve for the water fund, this really, I know it's funny, a drop in the bucket concerning its water, but this amount, once the county, let's say they do appropriate half of that, so it's about $250,000, $260,000 that would come out of that. That amount wouldn't have any impact on the rate structure itself. What it would do is, when you look at the different utilities, and that'll be each utility, that's water, sewer, electric, sanitation, even landfill, the amount of that, and if I get too technical and detailed, let me know, but the amount of the reserves that'll show up in our annual report is really all-encompassing. What it should be is there's different fund balances within that, and I use fund balance as a cash balance. There'll be one, as the gentleman mentioned on the Utilities Commission, one is for operating, and we have a 90-day operating reserve. The other fund you'll have, or another reserve, would be for the CIP portion of it. The idea is to build up enough so you don't have to go out and do debt financing on a project. So that big one that will grow over time will be the one you want to build up to go do your pipe replacement, pump replacements, tank replacements, whatever it might be. And then the third one I don't believe we have yet. I'm going to be working with staff on that one, as a replacement fund for equipment. So if you have in the sewer fund a large Vector truck that could be close to $200,000 for a Vector truck. In the past, we've been buying those sort of on a lease purchase, as I was told, rather than setting aside, if you go out and buy a $200,000 truck and it's good for 10 years, you'd put away $20,000 a year. So at the end of 10 years, you'd assess the truck. Do you need a new one? Do you not? But you've put away a little bit every year. So there's essentially three components to that. It does all, from an accounting standpoint, equal one reserve fund. We have more than enough to cover the 90-day operating portion. We currently don't have any fund really set aside for the replacement, so everything else falls under CIP. And the process that we're taking now for CIP, we wouldn't be using that full amount anyways, because we're continuing to build that up to do the 6 miles of pipe that need to be done. So $250,000 out of that portion of the reserve wouldn't have any detrimental impact to the fund.
Thank you, sir. Now, if there were several hits on this, we have to come back, because I think we all know that it could cost more, okay? So if we have a buy-in of $250,000, supposedly, and hopefully it will be at least 50%. So if we have to take a hit 3 times, for instance, and we have to build back our reserves, are the current rate structures already in place to actually replenish that reserve? Yes, it's going to take a lot of time. Or are we going to trigger, again, rate increases? Are we going to be pushed into that realm, so to speak? It may be hard for you to answer that, but I think I want the consumers to know out there that we're not making decisions that are immediately going to impact them. And again, the choices for our water fund reserves, were there any other choices or alternatives, or was this the best of the best, okay, as far as which reserve fund do you obtain funds?
Yeah, so on that last part, you have a choice of the general fund or the utility fund. Right now, the general fund's in a state of, I won't say crisis, but it's not it's not flush. We have a lot to do to get back to where we should be. The reason I chose the water fund was there is a definite nexus. The amount of trash waste that's down there needs to be cleaned out because we do have to protect the aquifer. That's where we're pulling all of our water from. We don't get state water or anything else. So I saw that that was the most beneficial place to take it at that point in time. If we had to go back a second time, or hopefully not even a third time, we could review and we could look at the general fund to see where we are at that point in time. We could look at the water fund again. Again, at this point though, on the reserves that are in there currently, a $250,000, what it would do, if anything, would really just be postponing a CIP project. For what period of time, I don't know. I'd have to look at the CIP. It wouldn't have the potential to drive rates up because of the size of the request, but if anything, it would just delay maybe a new pipe installation at the moment, and that would go down. It could be months down the line, or possibly a year down the line before that fund is built back up to where it was.
Thank you, sir. You know, one more question here. I got, we're declaring a state of emergency, which we've just all voted on. What avenues does that open up? Okay, we're gonna be requesting additional revenue and funds from the state. It seems like that's why we're declaring a state of emergency. And the process and time frame, are we going to get any of this money while we're still digging deep? Or is there any prognosis on how quickly the state will respond to a state of emergency from us, or are they going to sit there and laugh at us? Because they've done that before.
I'm always the optimist, so I'm hoping, that's why I brought it forward, I'm hoping we get something out of this. Even if it's to throw us some agency that says we'll send people down there to help you clean it up. I'll take that at this point in time. From a financial standpoint, the state is actually in a fairly stable financial position. They are putting money away in their reserves. It's in the billions. I would hope it's someone up there, maybe our representative in the area could take this and run with it and say, look, they're only asking for $500,000, $700,000. It's literally a drop in the bucket. The next piece, though, is to send it to the state, possibly through our representative here, and ask them to help carry that ball forward, carry the torch, get it to the governor, see if he'll respond with a declaration of an emergency. And if that happens, that does open up a possibility to go to the federal, which would be the FEMA portion of it, to ask for something. I think our case is going to be built on, like I said earlier, why declare an emergency afterwards? Why not come down and look, have the Army Corps say, yes, if they don't do something and you get this level of flood, you have a serious potential for a riverbank failure.
Thank you for the clarification. For the public, I wanted it to be clarified that whatever we do here on a revenue stream as far as the water reserves, it wasn't a direct trigger to our rates. I've been an advocate of keeping our rates within cost of service and to make sure that we're not overcharging so that we don't infringe or impact the residents of Lompoc. And I wanted to make sure that the CIP, which is capital improvement projects, for people that don't understand the abbreviation or didn't know that, I wanted to make sure that that's for infrastructure and moving forward. So thank you for that clarification.
Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, this land was acquired from 1966 to 76 for parkland, for River Park. And my question is, currently right now, and I know there's true-ups that come along, but as our pre-closing balance for River Park Campground, there's $427,000 in the account. Shouldn't the park, pay a little bit of this cleanup component? I know not all of it is in there, but is there an opportunity to take something out of there?
As long as we can find a nexus between the two, if there was something, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, I can go back, review it, and if we can find a nexus between the two, then there is that possibility, yes.
Anyone else? Okay, public comment. Anyone from the public wishes to say anything?
Good evening, John Lynn, Lompoc resident. As of June 30th, we had about $6.8 million in the water reserve, according to the city financial statement. And that's against about a $3.2 million requirement, which is why the Utility Commission asked you not to raise the rates. Thank you very much. So to Councilmember Vega's question, there are more than adequate reserves there. Having said that, I'm certainly not in favor of using any more of that. To Councilmember Mosby's comment, that land along that portion of the river was purchased with federal funds, and I think it was Department of Commerce, but I wouldn't swear to it. And, you know, that it would certainly be a nexus to use the revenue that's on hand from River Park operations to take care of that portion that is within the original River Park land. I share a concern about what the ultimate cost would be, but I think we probably started down a road and we all knew the number was going to get bigger, and it's been an ongoing problem for years and years, and it's cost citizens of Lompoc hundreds of thousands of dollars in theft and damage over the last 10 years. So now we're in a position where we need to go forward and finish what we started, and I don't think we're going to see a rate impact out of it. I'm a little concerned that we told everybody we were raising their rates to fix pipes, and this isn't exactly a pipe, but I think there's enough of a nexus that we can move forward in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. What's your preference? Councilmember Osborne.
Thank you for bringing this back forward. I really appreciate the proactive nature that both item 9 and item 10 are taking. And while we don't know what the cost is going to be, you're absolutely right. We have to take care of this, and we have to start by allotting at least an initial amount to address it. So I will make the recommendation that we adopt Resolution 621318, approving the supplemental appropriation for funding of the riverbed cleanup.
Councilmember Mosby.
Would the city manager, would you be able to, without modifying this at all, if the potentially money could be used from the River Park campground?
Yeah, I would like to look at it to see what it's there. I was just notified that that does roll up into the general fund, so it would be, in essence, using general fund reserves.
But I just think since it is River Park, and granted it does roll up, but it was looked at as primarily as an enterprise at one time, so it was a little bit isolated and separated before.
No, if I can, I'd like to talk with either staff and also with our city attorney just to make sure there is a nexus there that I can do it before I state.
And I would give a second to your motion if you could add that as part of it, that not only water funds, but there's a possibility of using River Park. Campground, operational cash?
Councilmember Osborne.
Sure.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
I give a second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, the City Council is right now going to recess to a closed session, and we will return shortly thereafter to close out the meeting. You're returning from closed session. We had one item, which I forgot to mention earlier, public employee performance evaluation. City manager, city attorney, report on closed session.
There was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. Okay, reports taken during closed session, we got that. Written communications.
Nothing.
Okay, oral communications, it's your last minute to speak to us for up to 2 minutes. Seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication and bring it back to council. Council requests, comments, and meeting reports. We'll start with Councilmember Vega.
I attended a Chamber of Commerce military appreciation luncheon out on base, and I was a server, actually. I was French bread boy out there. So there was over 1,000 meals served, so I had the honor of being asked to be on the serving line. I also went to the Veterans Memorial Building, Coast Valley, the center out there. They had an open house out at the Veterans Memorial Building with all the services for helping people, and I went down there and went to the various booths out there to find out what services that are offered. And also, I attended the dedication for Thompson Park. It was just a couple days ago out there. The park has been renovated, and it looks like everyone's pretty happy to be out there. So I was proud to see one of our parks completed 100%, and it looks like everyone was happy out there. That's all I have.
Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, I attended many city events and such, none at the expense of the city. I did want to thank former council member Schuyler for stepping up on the gopher eradication program at Ryan Park, and thank the city manager. It's been like a year process of coordinating this together. And the nearly 20 volunteers, we put over 20,000 pounds of material at that park and fixing a lot of the whoops. And I also heard rumblings at the dog show. I was talking about coming back already for this next year. Hopefully you heard that as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I have no reports.
Councilmember Osborne.
I attended the quarterly meeting for Home for Good, where Lompoc was the topic of discussion regarding our triage facility and the riverbed cleanup. Several communities stepped forward wanting more information and are in contact with our city manager and other departments about the process. The Employee Development Association luncheon honoring our employees was on the 27th. I attended and assisted with serving, and it was amazing to see the number of employees we've had for as long as we've had them, and I just want to say thank you to the hard work they have all given in their positions, and it was really nice to see the employees honoring each other. I also attended the Thompson Park grand reopening. If anybody's interested in partnerships, as the Thompson Park revamp was done through several businesses, volunteer groups, and organizations that utilize the park, please contact the Parks Department to discuss the opportunity to revamp a park in your neighborhood. And last but not least, I attended the Leadership Lompoc Valley's 2018-19 class kickoff dinner, and our city manager was the keynote speaker and did a great job talking about Lompoc's potential, so thank you.
Okay. And I attended many meetings throughout the times, but the one meeting that had some city expense, I attended the NCPA annual conference, and the city paid for lodging, 2 meals, and my mileage. I drove my own vehicle. And without anything else going on? Okay, then we are adjourned to a Lompoc City Council meeting of October 16th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you and good night.